So here's how we're going to modify the spreadsheet, the previous analysis, to get the time value of money. We're going to ask, well, how much are we going to have at this point in time, comparing these two options? How much are we going to have at this point in time? So this much here, we got up to here. So previously, our cash flow diagram was built on this portion of the spreadsheet. And we built two different cash flow diagrams, one for the purchase option and one for the lease. Oops. Go back. There we go. One for the lease. These are new cells. I'm going to show you right now how we get to these. There we go. So, the cells highlighted in yellow are the new ones that we're adding to our spreadsheet to the left of our previous analysis. And the cash flow is just going to be the sum of all those previous cells, the sum across the row. And so forth, on down. Future value, that is how much income do we have? Well, at time zero, it might be negative. In this case, it's negative. You're going to pay something out. How much interest are you going to earn on the negative amount of money? You're going to earn negative interest. So and in this case where you have zero the first year, the 0th year, time equals 0, you're starting flat. In this case, in the lease option, at time equals 0, you spent $15,000 already. So then we ask, oh, this is the simple cash flow. Now we ask, what's our future value going to be? It's what we had before plus the total cash flow, which we see here, plus interest. And that's what this portion of the formula does right here. So this is what we had before. I3 is what we had before. I1, I $1 is the interest rate. So we're taking this value here, the previous year's value, which is times 1, plus the previous year's value times the interest rate. That's $1. That's the interest rate. $sign is just an absolute reference. You'll recall that from your Excel courses. And then H4, of course, is the cash value. So that's the formula we use going down the rest of the rows. And we're doing a what if. What if we have 0% interest, 12%, 18, 36%. What are the different values? So the purchase option, we are going to be to the good 222,000, and at high interest 786,000. The lease option, we're better off at high interest rates. Down to 12 interest rates, we're better off with the lease. Even at 0 interest rates, we're better off with the lease. You're in the positive. You're in the red. So that means you're not in the red. Excuse me. You're in the black. So that means you're positive. That means you're making money. Your sales are better than what your expenses are. And not only that, you're better off leasing than buying. In all cases, for any value of interest rate, you're better off leasing than buying, is what this is turning out to show. And on the PowerPoint handouts you guys are getting, I show you the formulas, the same as the spreadsheet formulas. There they all there. Yeah, this is for 12% interest, by the way. So if you were going to try variable interest rates like I did in the other spreadsheet, you'd put 0.12. So this just separates out the interest column. The difference between this PowerPoint slide and the Excel document is that this has a separate column for interest, and then this equals the previous plus plus the cash flow plus the interest earned. Okay. Tips. I've already mentioned this. Watch out for beginning and end of year. If cash flow or inflow is at the beginning or the end of the year, if it's at the beginning, enter it as a positive or negative on that year's line. If it's at the end, enter it as a positive negative on the next year's line. And we should have seen that. So sales during this year, during the first year, are entered on the beginning of the next year's line. That's this right here. And then treat December 31st of the previous year as the same as January 1st of the next year. Okay, here's another case. Let's see, and that's 12% interest. What did we say on our spreadsheet for 12% interest? Where did it go? There it is. Okay, 12% interest. There we go. 12% interest. And that's reported on the PowerPoint slide. 332 versus 372. You're better off leasing. Okay, minimal acceptable rate of return. That's the 12%. So, I take that back. So you take these two numbers and you'd annualize them. How much rate of return are you getting annually over 8 years? And is it what you want? You better be 12%. If you left the money in the bank, you'd get 12% interest. So present worth definitions, present worth, return on investment. That's your future worth divided by your present worth minus 1. The rate of return is related to ROI. That's future worth divided by present worth raised to the power of 1 over the payback period. How many years are you paying back? Minus 1. So you have this formula going on right here, rate of return. So here's another option: repair or replace, overhaul the equipment. And here's the problem: how much your maintenance is. It doesn't have any salvage value. Overhaul it, and if you want a minimum acceptable rate of return, is if 12% is the minimum acceptable rate of return, what would you do? So that's what this analysis does. So that's your job. Do the car wash problem. And you can take that Excel spreadsheet that I did, and I've already put in the different rates of return. You just put in different numbers instead of the numbers for the purchase versus lease of that $100,000 piece of equipment. You'll look at the problem for this right here. Okay, and I'll let you do that. I'm gonna before you do, I'll show you the answer before we actually end everything. So I'll flip over to the Excel spreadsheet and show you the answer. On to the car wash problem. I want to return to the previous problem for just a second. I put in the ROI calculations, by the way, and the rate of return calculations in this Excel spreadsheet. You can why can't I see? There we go. There's the formula. there's this formula right here. ROI and rate of return calculations. Now, you'll notice something interesting. So the ROI for the case where you borrow, you purchase, you borrow the money and then purchase the equipment. Rate of return is less than what you can make at the bank or your investment portfolio, whatever your investment portfolio is. So the rate of return is poorer than what your investments do. But if you lease, rate of return is higher. Remember, this is for 0%, 12% investment return, 24% investment return, 36% investment return. But you can see that your RO, let's go down to this row. 0%, 12% investment return, or 0.12. 0.24 investment return, 0.36 investment return. Not so great. So here's your return if you lease. Use somebody else's money. That's the whole idea behind somebody else's money. So your investment returns 0, you're returning 43%. Investment returns 12%, you're returning 50% if you lease, and so on. Okay, now to the car wash problem. Here's the answers. I am not going to show you the formulas on these because you're expected to do these on your own. Rate of return doesn't make sense on this since we're just looking at expenses. It's like comparing a Ford versus a Chevy in the earlier example, except this time we're doing the time value of money. What is the time value of the money? And at different interest rates. I can get rid of this column altogether. There we go. And just crunch them up. So you can see that overhauling going to cost you $70,000 overall because of increased maintenance costs and the like, and no salvage. Here's salvage down at the bottom. That's a positive 5 cash flow because you sell off the used equipment. So if you overhaul, it'll cost you $70,000 total. If you purchase new, it'll cost you less. Mostly because, take a look at maintenance, operating and maintenance costs, much higher for the overhaul. That adds up. So you are better off buying new, purchasing new and using that equipment. And since we don't have any income data on this, we don't know if this is even a good option or if we need to sell the business. Okay, end of discussion, end of videos, end of the economics discussion. And this is, yeah. So have fun. See you guys in your projects.